Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
I was going to lead off with a happy birthday song, but it's one way to really lose anyone that wants to listen to this podcast if I sing. But happy birthday.
Thanks.
I know, it's the day after Leah's birthday. It was her birthday yesterday. And did you have a good day?
I had a great day.
Had a great day?
I had a
How's it
really,
feel to be
really-
33?
I'm not that old. What are you talking about?
It's 30 plus GST.
Yeah, this is true.
I
Oh,
know.
God. No, it's good. I had a really good day. My biggest plan was to just not plan anything. Like, everybody kept on asking me, what are you doing for your birthday? I said, I don't know, talk to Shannon. I don't want to organise it this year because I've been so busy in my own life that the last thing I wanted to do was try and organise something for my
Oh,
birthday.
yeah, for your birthday, yeah.
And you nailed it.
I feel like we had a great day.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Did you like your present?
Oh my God, I love it. I haven't told anyone about my present yet.
Oh, you haven't?
So, well, only like people that I've physically seen. I haven't like told people on socials. But
So the hardest thing with the leader is she's like, I'm a practical gift giver. So like you pay my electrical bill for my birthday. I think it's the greatest gift ever. Alita is very sentimental. So like, you know, I was like, do I get her a RoboVac? Because she really wants a RoboVac, but I feel like it was too practical. So I went a bit left of field of what I usually would get for a gift. And I was like,
and you
what
nailed it.
What does she really need at this point in time? And like, this is like a month ago. And I was like, she needs a break, just like to get away. Or
So he
whatever it
bought
is.
me a Kit Kat.
She had a break. She had a Kit Kat. But yeah, I just decided we're going to hire a van next week and do a little bit of a road trip and just take a bit of time, organise for you to have time off work.
Yeah, that's the part that blew my mind. Like buying the van and, you know, going, oh, we're going to go on a trip one day. Like that would have been cool. But like you went to the extent of like calling my boss and asking for time, like a full week off work, and then like trying to make sure that I didn't book other random
you're so
things
hard
in.
to book for too, because you make plans to make plans. Like you're like, no, I can't do something on that Monday because I'm planning my Wednesday that day. So I had to constantly be on top of you with you know, oh, I'm doing this. Okay, what date's that? Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. And that was like the whole month leading in that I was just like, she's gonna book something.
And I have multiple calendars because the calendar on the fridge is like the stuff that we do together, like, you know, hens parties and weddings and that sort of thing. But then I have a calendar on my laptop, which is all my work related stuff. And then I have a calendar on my phone, which is stuff that I really, really can't forget. So yeah, you did well. You did really, really well.
I'm glad. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
To you.
Thanks.
You're 102. I love that song.
Oh God.
Tonight's guest that we're going to bring on, I just kind of gave a pre-warning before when I was talking to the guest that we're going to introduce, is very much a me guest. This is going to be one of those guests that like, she's going to have great insight, guys. So please stick around because I know as soon as I mentioned like she's kind of done athletic things, people kind of go, oh, another athlete.
If she can talk as well as what she can write, you
Yeah.
guys are in for a treat.
But that's what I mean with the insight side of things, because reading her questions, I'm like, oh, I think this is going to be something that she'll give insights without realizing she's giving insights, because a lot of things I was reading, I was relating to. But then again, you know, some things I relate to, other people don't relate to. And then some people relate to things and then I don't relate to it. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing of.
You just said the word relate so many times.
Yeah, I said it like quick in succession.
Ah,
Anyway,
funny.
let's introduce our guest because I really look forward to this chat.
Our guest tonight is nearing her 2-year surgiversary for her gastric sleeve surgery. She had a start weight of 163.5 kilos and is a whopping 90 kilos down and really seeing what life has to offer. Please welcome our guest tonight, Elyse, also known on Instagram as 163 kgs to strong. Welcome, Elyse.
Thank you, guys. It's so awesome to be here.
Oh, we're
I have
excited.
to say, I have followed you guys since pre-op, and just to see your journeys and to meet you guys was just like, I was fangirling.
Yeah, so we take a second, like, we were fangirling because, like, for one, you were on the 70.3 course. So anyone that doesn't know what the 70.3 course is, it's a half Ironman, which is kind of something I'm still working towards. So we went down and, like, we like to support people and, like, you know, cheer people in and blah, blah. And Next minute, Elyse runs past and we're kind of like, yeah, you've done amazing kind of thing. And then she goes, oh, you're Shannon and Lita. And then she goes, and she started running backwards. And this is at the finish line. She's like, I had the surgery too. And I'm like, we'll talk at the finish line. Just finish.
We were like, keep running. You're like 100 meters from the finish line. Don't stop and talk to us. Like, just keep going.
At this point, she's done like a 1.9K swim, isn't it? It always gets me with the swim, 1.9.
Yeah.
And then it's a 80K bike ride.
90K bike ride?
90K bike ride? Yeah.
90K.
And then a 21K, like 21.1K run to finish off. And
so
this
Elyse would have been
right
at
the finish
she
line.
would have done 21 kilometers and she's just got the 0.1 to go.
And she just decides to go backwards.
Just running backwards.
Yeah.
Just to
I'm like, I want to stay and have a chat. Like, let's have a chat.
Well, that's literally why, like, after because we couldn't find you at the finish line because we were talking to someone, we made our way to the finish line and we couldn't see you, so we didn't have the chat. And that's why I lurked you on Instagram. I was like, hey, want to have the chat? Can you come on Barry Banter? Because I really want to talk to you. And you were like, yeah, sweet. Sounds like a plan. What possessed you? Like, was 70.3, like, I guess what a lot of people say to me
was that your first 70.3?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, like a lot of people say, like, why do you do it? Like, why do you do it?
The whole thing about this whole surgery thing has been about pushing yourself and being outside your comfort zone. And triathlon was scary enough for me, but I wanted to really just push myself and see what we were capable of. Like, I feel like I have this new body, right? And I don't know what it can do yet. So I just want to take it out for a spin, like it's a new car kind of thing. A 70.3 is definitely not taking a car out for a spin, but it was the hardest thing I've done. Of like, you know what? But I've lost 90 kilos, so I can freaking do an Ironman, and we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
and we did it.
Yeah, 70.3. You're right. Isn't like taking a car out for a spin. It's like taking out for like its first 100Ks.
You're driving Route 66.
You're pretty much taking ownership of that vehicle by the end of that. Super impressive.
I love that we just happened to be there at your finish line though, like, because we were just happened to, there was two other people that we knew who were sort of like within 500 meters of finishing with each other, which again wasn't planned at all, clearly, but we just happened to be down there. And I said to Shannon, I was like, it's kind of special that we made it down there in time. Like, that's why we go down there, like, to be part of the community and just, cheer on people who, like, we know how tough it is for you to be out there. Like, oh my God. Well, we don't, because we've not done it.
No,
but
literally. Like, it impresses me year after year to see the people that get out there and do it, because I am still at the point where I haven't done it because it scares the shit out of me. Like, it's a long way.
Yeah.
Like I'm about to do the 100K, the Blackall 100. And
that's a long way.
But I also said that's good preparation for Ironman, because after my Blackall, after this 100K, I am putting the effort into the half Ironman, full Ironman. So that's my next two big goals. But it's funny how, like, you just go, just get out there and do it. Yeah, it's super impressive. Every time I get down there, we love to see the last person come across the line, because that to us is the person that's probably worked the hardest mentally out there. Because, they've gone through it and they've been out there for hours, and it wouldn't be easy. So,
was fitness something that you were interested in prior to surgery? Like, would you have classed yourself as a fit and active person prior to surgery?
Yeah, the thing was, I didn't really ever have a challenge with fitness. The thing was, I actually used to probably harm myself more with fitness. So I would go way overboard, hardly eat, and just be really unhealthy. So one of the things was I wanted to get healthy to have a healthy relationship with fitness as well. So I used to run, and I always wanted to be a really good runner. I just was too heavy, like my knees, my ankles just all hurt too much.
So you're not so much using exercise now as a way to lose weight. Have you found a love for it that you actually enjoy it, or?
Oh, yeah. It just makes me happy. Like happy days. I love it.
Yeah, it's really hard sometimes.
And I feel like
it's hard sometimes to kind of describe what it does for you, like mentally, because some people just don't understand it. Because like I know personally, going through pre-surgery, exercise is always like you just said then, where it was like to lose weight, but then for it to be a thing that you actually go, oh, it brings me a lot of value in my life. That's a really weird place to get to.
It is. How strange, but we're here, and I think what a blessing.
Yeah.
I love that you said that you wanted to have a healthy relationship with exercise and movement and all that sort of thing. A lot of people will disagree with you when they say that training for a 70.3 is a healthy relationship with exercise. Like, you've got to be so dedicated and so like on point with your training. Like, to put it into perspective, how long each day do you reckon to the lead up of this race were you exercising and training and all that sort of thing?
So 6 days a week. The very minimum was an hour each day, and then on the weekends could go up to 3, 4, 5 hours per day on the weekend.
Wow.
So yeah, like, it was a lot of man hours. It was tough. Like, I'm not going to lie, I had so many temper tantrums and I missed sessions, and life just gets in the way as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a refuge as well. You know, like, you have a really stressful day at work, or you just want some time to recharge. Well, that's jumping on the bike, or that's going for a run. And you never have as much quiet as you do when you're in the pool and you're just swimming and it's just you, and it's a peace.
That's why I love swimming. Swimming's my favorite. It's just you and that solid black line on the bottom of the pool, and you got no music, you got no nothing.
Yeah.
You just count your strokes and count your breath, and you're in your own little world.
Yeah.
This is a conversation I had with Helen the other day. So I went for a trail run with Helen, who she's done Ironman and stuff like that. She's an incredible athlete. And she was talking about how in Ironman you can't use music.
You're not allowed to, yeah.
And I said, that's the part I'm really finding hard to comprehend. Like, even in the Black Hole 100, I can use music. And I honestly don't like being with myself yet enough to do the 70.3, like, because it's a long time. And I think that's why I don't like swimming, is literally because I just do my own head in, because I just sit there overthinking everything.
So it's like, because your attention span is like 3 seconds, so you'll get too bored. You'll be like, oh, black line, oh, black line, oh, black line.
Yeah, I feel too much like a goldfish. Like, when I'm swimming, I'm like, ooh, black line. I feel like I've seen that before.
But the way that you feel after training now, like, obviously you're tired and exhausted and all that sort of thing. Can you imagine doing what you do now when you were 90 kilos heavier? Like, how draining do you think that would have been on your body?
Like, I don't think, it's not humanly possible. Like, I actually did run a couple of half marathons at 120 kilos, and it took me hours, and it nearly broke me. So I can't even imagine being 160 and doing any of that stuff. And like, I was talking to my partner the other night, we're going to chuck him on my back. He's what I've lost.
Oh my God.
We're going to try and go for a run. I don't reckon we're going to get far.
No. Well, it's funny you say that, because I remember Lita hurt her foot once when I'd lost like 80 kilos or something like that. And I think she was 80 kilos at the time. And she hurt her foot and she still wanted to go to the beach. So she got on my back and I tried to piggyback her. And at that time, I loved the beach. Like, I loved it. And I was like, we were religiously going every day. But then having her on my back with an extra 80 kilos, every step was hard. And
like,
I was
walking
like,
through the
this
soft
is
sand.
why I lived in this house. Like, I lived literally a street from the beach, and I didn't go to the beach for like 9 years when I was bigger. And carrying her on my back, I was like, that's why, because it was so hard to walk down the beach being, 170 kilos, because every foot you'd sink too much and just wouldn't feel graceful at all. And it was funny to have that day where I just really went, oh wow, like, this is all this time. That's why I never came to the beach, is because it was just too hard.
Or like when the sand's scorching hot and you've got to run across the sand because it's too hot, but you can't physically run because you weigh too much. That was the worst for me.
You're like
I ended
I
ended up burning the bottoms of my feet because I could never run fast enough across the sand.
Wow. That's sad. Kind of sad.
Sadly, though.
So let's take a step back. Like, we'll lead back up to, like, obviously where you're at, because it's super incredible. But like, what was it that made you go down the bariatric surgery route?
Yeah, well, kind of like most people, I had lost weight. I've lost 50 kilos twice and put more back on. I was at that point where I was in my late 20s. I was staring in the barrel of my 30s going, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, is this what we're going to keep doing the rest of our lives?
Yeah.
I used to catch a lot of public transport to go to work, and no one would sit next to me. I couldn't fit in the seat. I felt shame getting on public transport, and I just felt really uncomfortable. I was just sick of hating myself. Like, I just hated myself because I didn't love myself. And I thought, well, I'd never really understood surgery. I definitely was very uneducated about it, and I thought it was, this magical thing.
Yeah.
And I stayed away from it. And I'm like, you know what? This is it. I've got no other choice now. Like, I was slowly killing myself.
Yeah.
And that was it. Well, my partner and I, we had some really serious discussions, and the point was I didn't have the tools to help myself anymore,
Yeah.
so I needed to get a tool, and that was what the surgery was.
Yeah. So like you said, like pre-surgery, you looked at it as like, oh, like it's going to be the solution to the issue. Was there a point that came along where you went, oh, there's more to this than just cutting your stomach out?
Holy dooly, yes. So I got the chance to attend this local seminar for a surgeon, and he brought all of his success stories along, and it was amazing. I was like, wow, I'm going to talk to people that have had this surgery. I can't wait to ask them all these questions. And I got to this lady, and she'd lost a stack of weight, and the first thing she starts telling me is, hey, if you do X, Y, Z, you're going to be able to keep eating all this food, and you can do this and get this in. And I was like, you're the success story, man. Like, what are you doing telling me how to cheat surgery?
Yeah.
And my partner and I went home and we were like, okay, so obviously you can still do this and still be really unhealthy and have a really unhealthy relationship. And I thought, that's me. If I don't fix my demons, that's going to be me. And what a waste.
Yeah.
Like, what a waste to have this opportunity and not actually be able to work on yourself and overcome those demons. So that's when I knew that surgery was just a tool. It wasn't going to fix any of the mental stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's really lucky almost lucky that you got to speak to those people, because you, unlike a lot of other people, you got to sort of experience it firsthand and know that it is just a tool. Like, you had that light bulb moment before surgery, whereas a lot of people kind of get out, a couple of months out from surgery and go, oh shit, that's the moment that they've all been telling you about. But you found that out beforehand.
It's a weird catch-22, because you almost wouldn't recommend someone pre-surgery talking to someone who teaches them the tools to get around the tool. But then it's like, for the right mind, like you kind of went, oh wait, you're cheating. That's not what I want from this. And it kind of gave you a new perspective on what this surgery was about.
Yeah, because a lot of people would have looked at that and gone, oh cool, so I can still eat the cheeseburger. Yeah. That's great, amazing. But you've gone, well, hang on a second. I can still eat the cheeseburger, so I've got to figure out another way to not want to eat the cheeseburger.
Yeah, rather than taking like the soft, I've forgotten the word that I was going to say, but it's like, rather than taking like the easy way and like, kind of the justification way around things, you kind of go, oh, okay, no, I really need to focus on the other things that come along with this.
You touched before on saying that, you were ashamed of who you were and that you didn't like going out in public and all that sort of thing. In your form, one of the very first questions you answered is about one of the challenges that you faced first year out from surgery. And you said that coming to terms with losing the person that you were pre-surgery. So like, obviously you've already said it, you weren't necessarily happy and you weren't living your best life, that sort of thing, but you were also grieving losing that person.
Yeah.
Talk us through that. Like what wow, what?
It's a weird concept, isn't it?
Yeah. Like reading through your answer, I was like, I totally get that, but then me just trying to verbalize it just then, I was like, it sounds like the weirdest thing to try and verbalize.
Yeah, it is. So I guess it's the person that we are comfortable with. Our brain's so much more happy with being comfortable rather than uncomfortable. So I was comfortable eating takeaway 5 times a week, and going to Autograph to go and get my clothes and stuff. And when it was suddenly like all unfamiliar territory, because now I was liking vegetables or I was liking fruit. I'm like, what is this fruit business? Like, I've never had fruit before. And the old me used to love going to Big Shakes and having popcorn, and like, oh, maybe that's not going to be me anymore. And then kind of understanding that food doesn't make you, and you are not, just this one thing. You are a bundle of lots of things. You don't have to be connected. Like, your self-worth doesn't have to be determined by your size and by your weight and all of that. So I was kind of like letting go of that person who I knew and I was comfortable with for so long. I didn't know what I was going to look like at the end, and that was a real thing for me. I was like, I'm like you, Leader. I'm such a planner. So I'm like, well, what do you mean I don't know what size I'm going to be and what weight, what clothes should I going to buy to be ready for this? Like, that was confronting for me, not being in control.
And even when you
Took a
do
lot
try
to
and
kind of
try and plan that, like you might be a size 12 in one store and then you walk into the next store and you're a size 14 because clothing sizes are just ridiculous these days. So it's like you can't even plan for that. Like so many people say one of their biggest goals leading into surgery is just being able to walk into like a shop and buy standard clothing. There's no such thing as standard sizing because it depends on where you go. So it's still like a massive mental game. Like I can't just walk into a shop and go, oh, I know that I'm a straight size 10 because I'm not. I could be a size 8 or I could be a size 14. Like it's such a mental game and you can't plan for it. It's so hard.
I just wanted clothes that didn't have like 4 X's before it. That was my idea of standard clothing. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So I thought
you're about to have a sip of your beer. You're like, hang on, I'm caught off guard.
Wait a second. So in the first year, what that was the hardest challenge for you was dealing with the kind of that's like a weird body dysmorphia, isn't it? It's like almost
opposite.
like an out of body experience where you're like really struggling to let go of that person you was. Because it's funny, I listened to a podcast once before where it talked about how being bigger becomes your identifying characteristic. So like you identify as the big person, and sometimes like you can't lose that, so you resort back to that. And it was talking about how like sometimes your subconscious thoughts lead you back to a character that you feel comfortable with. And it was really interesting. So it's kind of like saying like you can't let go of that person you were because, you know, if you don't change your identifying character, i.e., you know, that's a leader, the athlete, or a leader, the runner, or, you know, if you don't change those characteristics about like your identifying characters, you will always be a leader, the big girl, you know, and that becomes who you identify as subconsciously, and then you would do actions to get you back there. So I found that really interesting. So you saying that is like literally that, like you had to change who you were, like you had to re-identify yourself. It just sounds like yours is a lot more dramatic than a lot of people because like you literally sat there and went like, no, I don't want to let you go, but I really like running. Sorry, I'll see you later. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and like you said, like that.
Go. No, you go.
That first 12 months. So I did a lot of work with a psychologist for a few years. But so one of the things she had me do was design my ideal life, like what I wanted. And what was unreal to me was that I got that in the first year. And that designing of your life thing had nothing to do with a weight or a size of clothes. I wanted to be able to go out and just do any kind of physical activity without feeling like I was going to have a heart attack. Yeah. And I wanted to be active and like love life. And I reckon it was probably about 90 kilos that I weighed. I went, oh, this is that image that I wanted for my life. I've actually got it now. I've got it early. I've got it without having to be skinny, you know, or like size 12. And it was really a big thing for me was that you don't have to, well, skinny doesn't fix it.
No.
Skinny is not the answer. No. And that was like a mind-blowing moment for me.
I remember.
And that came in the first 12 months.
When I first started doing parkrun, I used to look at all the skinny fit girls and I was like, oh my God, like they're all going to be so fit and so fast. But I learned quite quickly that skinny does not equal fit. And I within a couple of weeks, these people that I was like, oh my God, I want to be just like them. I was actually able to run faster than them because again, skinny does not mean fit and healthy.
No, you can be just as unhealthy being skinny as you can be morbidly obese. Like I've seen it so many times, but saying that there are a lot of people that are lean and they're like super quick.
So many people that are like that.
Being a little bit more like power to weight ratio doesn't hurt. But you know, it definitely doesn't mean the be all and end all. You know, for you, has weight taken a back step to your process going forward? Or are you still looking at the scales and kind of navigating your success through the scales?
Well, interestingly enough, I had to take a pause on the weight loss when I started training for Ironman. It was a really couple of frank conversations with my dietitian, my surgeon, and my GP. All were saying we got to take a pause on the weight loss because I lost quite a lot in the first 12 months. They were just like, you got to give your body a rest. Like if you want to train at this level and it's training 10 to 12 hours a week, you need to fuel your body for it.
Yeah.
It's not actually healthy to keep losing weight. You've got to actually change and start eating like an athlete rather than a weight loss patient.
Yeah.
Totally did my head in. It's
Yeah.
a very different way of eating. But so I've really just focused on maintaining my weight the last 6 months. Now that I've done my Ironman, there are a few more goals I want to hit, but it's about being strong and now shaping my body. Because I feel like I can create the body that I want
Yeah.
through activity and diet. Like, this is exciting.
Yeah.
I can make my own body.
Yeah, it's a hard transition to make, and I was literally going to ask you that, and then you just answered it, but it was like about the transition from weight loss mentality to fueling mentality, because it's I was talking to some like Amy and Helen the other day when I was running, and said it's funny because I've got a lot of old habits that I'm working on, but there's new habits that are forming that I've got to keep an eye on too. And for me, that was like the self, like kind of justifying things through my exercise. So like, you know, I could go, you know, run 40 Ks, whatever it is. And then that whole day I just justify everything I eat because I'm like, oh yeah, no, but I already burnt 3,000 calories and blah, blah, blah. So I've got to, for me, I'm like, I get that because I do need to fuel my body so my body doesn't eat my muscle because I've burnt 3,000 calories, but it doesn't mean, hey, go eat some donuts. You know, like it's a big difference between justifying calories and fueling calories. And that for me has been a big transition to kind of understand that, like, you know, yes, you're burning a lot of calories, but there's good calories that you should be putting in that your body will then use to build more. And then just justifying crap, you know, because at the end of the day, like crap for me still is a trigger where it's like you look at junk food and go, oh, but that makes me feel good. No, it doesn't make you feel good.
Fueling with crap isn't going to sustain you either, though.
No, but it's like because for a very long period of time, that was my I guess my vice. You know, I still look at it and go, oh, I can justify that now. So that's been my latest habit, is kind of like trying to break that down and understand that, like, just because you look at it and go, oh, that will taste good, my brain will go "Buh, buh, 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 buh," and enjoy it. It doesn't mean it's the right thing for my body, because you're not going to get further ahead by putting that crap in your body, especially when you're like trying to step up and do different things and like advance yourself as an athlete. You need to treat your body like, you know, a finely tuned machine.
Well, I read something the other day, and it was saying that the junk foods, like, you know, your pizzas, your burgers, all that sort of thing, they let off like a massive hit of serotonin, which is the like happy like chemical in your brain. So they give you a strong, hard, fast hit of serotonin, but it's like quick burning serotonin. Whereas if you eat foods that are actually like healthy foods, so like salads and broccolis and those sorts of things, you can still trigger serotonin, and it's a slow burning serotonin. So you'll actually stay happier for longer by eating these sorts of foods.
Yeah, well,
I found that super interesting.
Well, because it reminds you of the sugar thing, because there's like sugars that are like, you know, sugars that burn or for a longer period of time, and then there's sugars that are just like that straight, like a lot of it, and it makes you feel really good for like a short period of time, and you're like, oh yeah, sugar, and then you just crash and you just have like nothing because like your energy just disappears. So it's the same thing. So it makes a lot of sense, and your body like relates to different things differently. So that for me has been the thing, is like you might look at like sugar and be like, oh, that's going to make you feel good. No, but you can have this and it's going to make you feel slightly less good, but for a longer period of time.
Yep.
So making those whole like mental adjustments is sometimes the hardest thing.
You mentioned before that
I feel like that's really...
No, go. Keep going.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I feel like that's a really important fact, Shannon, not even from an athletic point of view, but just from a weight loss journey point of view, that, you know, you can be 5 years down, 2 years down, you still may have challenges with food, but these are lifelong things. It's an addiction. So you've got to be cognizant of the fact that this stuff's going to keep coming up in different areas of your life, right? So you've got to deal with it sometime. And no one's perfect. Like, I still love a good Macca's run. Like, who doesn't love a good Macca's run? But it's just not 100% of the time. Yeah. It's just there's a time and place.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's moderation. So I don't want anyone thinking I'm preaching perfection, because I'm not perfect.
Well, that's one thing with this podcast, is something I've been trying to break down, is because people assume, like, they looked at my Instagram and saw like this highlight reel of like, you don't share a lot of that stuff, and they assumed like, oh, he's got it under control. And that's with this podcast. Every episode, I feel like lately now, I'm like trying to be very transparent with like what I'm struggling with, because in the day, as I've said a million times, these habits took 30 years to form. They're not going to disappear in 2 years. And that is like the first thing you need to do is recognize that they're still there and then take the effort to work on them. Because if you just try and pretend like they're not there, then you develop other habits to bypass those habits. Because, you know, we didn't get to morbidly obese by just
We didn't wake up one day.
licking a hamburger and then all of a sudden you like gain 90 kilos. You know what I mean? Like there's these habits that are formed, and it's not going to just, if you just pretend like they're not there, it's not going to fix them. So if you want to fix them, you've got to put the work in and recognize them. And it doesn't mean like you should be, you know, slaying yourself because you did something naughty or you whatever. You just got to recognize it, and you've got to make that effort to like then mentally acknowledge it, because sometimes you can just be so formed in those habits that you just go through the motions, didn't even recognize you did it, and that's where the issue lies. So, yeah.
You mentioned before that you're super excited because you feel like you can create your own body, like you can shape your own body, that sort of thing. And anybody who's watching on YouTube, they're probably thinking that I'm super rude because the whole time that you were talking before, I was scrolling on my phone, but I was trying to find this section in your questions that you answered, and I'm just going to read a part because like Shannon and I both saw this and we were like, we love this. So you said your success within the first year, or one of your biggest successes, would have been that you halved your body weight in the first year and was in the 80s. And that you said you feel like you really finally understood what it was to create the life that you dreamed of. And you said, you know, the motivational people who always say that you can create the life that you want to live and you can master your destiny and all that kind of stuff. You said you actually feel like for the first time in your life, you were creating your own future. Both Shannon and I read that at almost exactly the same time, and we were like, that's so cool. Like, at what point did you feel, though, that you actually sort of went, you know what, I can just create my own body, create my own life, like live the life, as corny as it sounds, live the life I actually dream of?
Yeah, well, it was when I started setting little goals and then just started ticking them off. So things like I couldn't fit in the bathtub. I couldn't have a bath. Next minute, I could fit in the bathtub. I'm like, whoa, man, we can do stuff. And then things like when you sit in the car, right, like my tummy used to sit on the steering wheel. I couldn't actually have a gap there. I started getting a gap. I'm like, whoa, we can keep doing this. And then I tackled some stuff that I was really scared of. Like I was really scared of swimming in the open water. And I started working with my team and my coach, and we swam in a dam, which was like freaking horrifying. And then I was like, wow, we can actually do stuff. We can do stuff that we're scared of. And the more that you go outside your comfort zone, it's just infectious and it's contagious. And then you get bigger and better. And then that was it. Now I just feel like I just want to try everything once and we'll give it a go. We'll just see what happens. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you fail.
No, there's a phrase that I've literally lived by from like probably 6 months out, where it was seek discomfort. Like there was this phrase I heard and I was like, seek discomfort, because we've got so comfortable with just avoiding anything that made us uncomfortable that we became just like voids of ourselves. And it was funny, as soon as I started like doing things that like made me like that stressed me out, but then I did it, and then I had that after feeling of like,
the
oh my
adrenaline
God,
dump.
like I can do that.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of accomplishment. That's what was like the most rewarding thing. So like when I read that question today where you answered it like that, I'm like, oh my God, I get that. Like what she just said, like it for me triggered so many emotions, because I remember going through these motions of like doubting I could do something and then doing it and then going, whoa, wait a second. You know, it was always like that whole David Goggins thing where it used to, you know, when you get to that point of you can't go on, it's only 60% of what you're capable of. And I remember reading that line and literally going like, yeah, no, that's like, you can't go past, like you can. But I've done it multiple times.
Just
where, like,
remember that in your 100.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I'm excited about with the 100, is literally getting to that point where I can't go on and then still having like 60 Ks or 70 Ks to run, or 40 Ks, whatever it is, and then still continuing to go on, because I know when I get to that finish line, pain is temporary, you know, unless like you break your skull or something. But like, you know, pain is temporary. Like, you know, you if you can finish it, like a lot of runs, like when I do my 5K runs, I will be like burning, like my lungs will be burning. I'll be pushing myself as hard as I can. But in my head, I'm like, as soon as I get to that finish line, I will automatically think I had more in the tank when I know I didn't have any more in the tank. But when you finish and your body goes,
Yeah.
you go, I didn't push hard enough. It's like, no, you did. But like, if you get past that finish line, you get to like almost
Relax.
soak in
Yeah.
the reward of like accomplishing something, which is like the most powerful drug out there. And it's something like when I was reading your thing, I was like, yeah, I can totally relate that, because as soon as you accomplish one thing, you go, oh, what's the next thing? And then you're like, well, I didn't think I could accomplish that, and I did. So what else is there that I don't think I could accomplish, but I can accomplish?
Well, that was like me at Blackall when I fell over and hurt myself. Like I was bawling my eyes out finishing the finish line, because like I was so proud that A, I'd done my first half marathon, B, I'd injured myself, yet I'd still finished. And then like everybody was like, oh my God, because I have blood everywhere, whatever. And then like I literally went and hugged your mum because you weren't there, because you were still out on the 50 course. And she was like, oh my God, what have you done? And I was like, I'm signing up for the 50. Like it was the first thing. Because like even though I had like this traumatic experience on the 21, I survived it. I might have made some mistakes along the way, but I survived it. And I kind of went, well, hang on a second. If I can do 21, I can do 50. Like once it's like you always rate, and I say this all the time, like always raise the bar, because if you never raise the bar, you'll just get comfortable where that bar is and you'll stop appreciating where it is. So you've got to always keep on raising the bar.
Yeah. It's only impossible until it's possible. What is it that fuels you, Elyse? Like what is like, we always talk about this, like there's always that inner thing that like drives you to want to do this stuff. Like what is it that fuels you?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I guess I just always want to be better. Like, you can always do something better. You can do it faster, stronger, more efficiently. I just want to be better. And it's not about anyone else. It's just about me personally. So, like, I've already set my goal for 70.3 next year. I know exactly what it is, and it has numbers. And it's just about getting better. I just think you can always do more, be more.
Yeah.
I think that's what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, I totally.
But that sounds corny.
No,
but that's it.
It's 100% right. Like, you know, it's all about just staying out of that, like, you know, putting yourself out of that comfort zone, because, you know, the comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. So if you're constantly like thriving and moving forward, you're constantly to improve and do better. Yeah, it's funny because that's a hard question to ask you, but it's like a question I've been asking myself lately, like what is the fuel behind mine? And it's like, mine is very much, I'm a pleaser. So like for me, my mum is always at my finish line. So my thing is always like, you know, it sounds super gay, like when I put it out there, but like, it's like, you know, making my mum proud, which is a huge thing for me. Like, you know, if I make her proud, I make myself proud. So like starting to analyze that side of things is like, why do you put yourself in a position where you're going to hurt a lot? Yes, it's to prove that I can do it to myself, but it's also like, I guess there's these side things of like, you know, making your mum proud or making your partner proud, or like, you know, proving people that doubted you wrong. All these little things that like play into it, because you don't go out there and do like half Ironmans just because, oh, I was bored that day. So, you know, I just decided to do this huge event that like some people would never even attempt.
Some people have never even heard of it, let alone
but like, you know what I mean? Like even a portion of that, like 1/3 of that is a big achievement for a lot of people.
Running a half marathon by itself is a massive achievement. Like,
yeah, so there's like, it's always like, it's sometimes like we sit there and we go, we do it because we want to make ourselves proud. And I think that's sometimes taking the emphasis away from what it actually is, because I've always been like that. I'm like, I just want to do it because I want to prove to myself I can do it. But now lately I've been trying to like analyze, is it that, or is there more to it? Like, I think a lot of mine has to do with like, you know, pre-existing traumas and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, because you don't put yourself in discomfort for that amount of time.
For that long, yeah.
You know, just to prove you can be in discomfort for that long, you know what I mean? And the more like ultra athletes I talk to, there's always that little thing there that's driving them. Like, you know, even Risha, for example, like I want to talk to her because there's this incredible ultra woman that just all of a sudden has just started breaking course records. And you can just tell there's something there.
There's something.
Like, you don't just do what she's doing because you were bored. or you wanted to prove that you could do it. Like she is just mentally, there's something feeling her, and it's like, I want to know what that is because, you know, I think it would really help me moving forward. So yeah, that's why I asked that question. It's a hard question to ask, but it's a hard question to answer. But I think it's something you need to kind of analyze as you go forward is just like, you know, why are you doing this? What is it that you're really getting from it? Because I think you will take a lot of ammunition and like a lot of fuel from knowing exactly what it is that you're getting from it. Because yeah, usually it's more than just proving you can. Sometimes it's like proving the doubt is wrong or whatever it is. So
You mentioned before that you've got a plan for your 70.3 and it's got to do a lot with the numbers and all that sort of thing. Early on in your journey, were you fixated on the numbers as well? Like the weight numbers and the scales going down? Like obviously you're now focusing on different numbers, but was it the numbers that were sort of driving you at the beginning, like the sizing of your clothes, the weight that you were losing, all that sort of thing?
100%. Like I have a real fixation with scales, which a lot of people do. I still, to this day, weigh myself every day. Sometimes it's very unhealthy. Sometimes it's like a checkpoint for me. And it's something I really have to be in the right mindset when I jump on the scales. Like, why am I doing this? Am I jumping on because I'm kicking myself because I ate something that was great the night before, so I want to see how much damage I've done? Or is it, you know, have I got enough fluid in to uptake like all the exercise that I'm doing? Have I maintained? So I had to really shift my focus on that. But yeah, I was. And I've used it a long time to really beat down on myself, unfortunately. I think a lot of us do it, right? Like it's not an uncommon thing in our community.
No.
I don't have the answer for it, to be honest. I don't know that I'll ever be able to stop weighing myself every day because it's a bit of an addiction for me. I just know that I've improved my mindset around it. And at least I'm honest with myself about why I do it.
Yeah. Well, I think, and the scales is always that thing that you go back to kind of, you know, because our biggest thing with bariatric surgery is the fear of failure. So I think it's kind of like our tool to make sure we aren't. Because, you know, like either you're weighing yourself often and then like criticizing yourself, or B, you're avoiding the scales like the plague because you know you haven't been doing what you're supposed to do. And then that is going to be your like, crap. Like, yeah, what I was thinking was actually happening. So, you know, the as much as the scales only gives you a very small picture of like how you were going on your process, it kind of clarifies a lot of things for us too, if that makes sense.
It's funny that you say that too, because I haven't gotten on the scales in God knows how long. But I know because of how I'm running at the moment that I'm not doing the things that I should be doing. And it's almost like before I get on the scales to see just how much damage I have done, so to speak, I want to focus on my running so that I can kind of at least be like, okay, at least my running's improved. Because then I also think that if I'm running more and I'm getting fitter and healthier again, then that will then again reflect on the scales. Like it's almost like, it sounds weird to like verbalize, but it's almost like, it's not like I've let myself go or anything like that, but I know because I'm probably like 30 seconds slower per K at the moment, which to people doesn't sound like a lot, but in running world, 30 seconds per K is quite a big difference.
Yeah.
So I know because I'm running worse than what I used to be, that has to be because of something. It's not just because all of a sudden I've woken up and gone, oh, I'm just going to be slower for now. Like, you know what I mean? Like I do know that I am doing other things like strength work and all that sort of stuff. But until my running picks up, I don't want to get on the scales because I don't want to see what by me losing my running fitness has done on the scales, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is one of those things.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is one of those things because like, it's like running burns a lot of like calories and stuff like that. And like, but yeah, it's one of those things like I said before, like I sometimes run to burn calories to justify things.
Yeah.
But then also
I did it the other night. I literally was like, go out and go for a run so that you can have a glass of wine when you get back. I was like, do not have wine until you've gone for your run. Like that was in my head. I was like, okay, that's not the point of this.
I don't know, but who knows right and wrong? Like, who knows if that's the right way to go about things or not? Like, even Helen the other day that I was talking to, who I've talked about a few times in this podcast with the Iron Man thing, she does it. Like when I started talking about my justification of calories and blah, 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 someone that I look at and she's stick thin, like nothing of it. Like she weighs like 50 kilos, if that, like probably 50 kilos wet. But like she says she does it. She justifies calories and what she eats through her exercise. So I'm like, this is someone that, you know, is 10 kilos here or there. She's never really struggled severely with their weight, and she does it. So it's like, who's to say what we're doing is right or wrong, just because you may look at it and be like, I feel like that's not a healthy relationship. Is it? Like, there's people out there that have probably done it their whole life and had no issue with it. If you can kind of like create a normal and consistency through it, then if it works for you, it works for you. You know, so I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Are you happy with where you are at the moment? Like, you know, weighing yourself every day, and you obviously know how much you weigh and you know what your fitness level and all that sort of stuff. Are you happy with where you're sitting at the moment, or do you still want to, like, obviously you say you always want to be better and keep on pushing yourself and all that sort of thing, but like if the scales were not to move again from where they are now, would you see yourself as a success, and are you happy with your process so far?
I definitely see myself as a success because, yes, I've hit the things I want to hit, but I'm hungry for more. Yeah. I'm hungry to shape my body a little bit more. I haven't gone down the route of plastic surgery. I'd like to see what I can still do with weights and strength training.
Yep.
So I still want to do a bit more work on my body and in my fitness and size if I can. But, you know, who knows what happens on our crazy journeys when we get down, you know, a couple of years after. So if I don't change, that's totally cool. I will be happy, but I want more if I can have it.
You got such an infectious way of talking. Like I feel like I'm sitting here like hanging on each of your words, being like, what else is she gonna say?
Yeah, yeah. No, but it is. I like that constant, like, you're working towards something. I think is a very good thing to have because, like I said before, like, comfort zone's a beautiful place and nothing grows there. It's like I think we've come too comfortable with being content and seeking like comfort that it almost ruins us to a degree. Like, I think that for me has been a huge thing for me, is like constantly seeking better. Doesn't mean I'm going to constantly see better, but if I constantly do something that gets me further along, eventually it will prevail and I'll be like, oh my God, I've done better. Because that's like something lately I've been talking about where it's like, you know, atomic habits is something I always talk about a lot, where it's like you can put in little efforts daily and eventually they'll equal something bigger, but you're not going to see the results daily. And it's something I've had to come comfortable with because, as we know with this bariatric process, in the early stages, the rewards are very frequent. Like, your scales are dropping really quickly. You're losing all this clothes, you get those non-scale victories. But I've got to a point now where my weight's been very consistent for a very long time. So that's no longer giving me the justification in my head. My running times are hardly dropping. Like,
yeah, but 1 second for you is massive.
That's what I mean. But like I can go out and I can run a PB of like 2 seconds. And for some people, they'd be like, oh, it was good. But for me, I'm like, that's huge. Like, that's huge. That's why I've slaved for the last 3 months. Every day is for those 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, it's like those your scales of measurement change, but it doesn't mean it means any less. Yeah. And that's something you need to really adjust your mind to, because I think we can get very addicted to huge things that are like just like, you know, oh, I can tie my shoes without holding my breath, or these huge things in your life that really impact you. But you've got to keep pushing forward and get comfortable with smaller gratifications as you progress in this journey, because they slow down so much that if you can get very, you can be very like discouraged if you kind of don't see the constant results, but you got to get comfortable with not seeing the constant results in order to keep succeeding.
True.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to like a comment or like a quote that I really like about not setting ceilings. And one of the things along this journey is realizing this absolute potential that you have. And there are things that people who are starting this journey will go, well, I wouldn't try X, Y, Z. And in a year's time, you'll try it. You'll go, man, what can I do now? Like, there's so many more options. So for those of us who are further down the journey and not so fresh anymore, it's about finding those things outside your comfort zone that are going to excite you again. So you get that love of life back. Because I feel like more than anything, I've lost 90 kilos, but I've got a second chance at life. And no one else gave that to me. I gave it to myself.
Yeah.
And there's like such an inner power from giving yourself that gift. So I feel like I owe it to myself to do scary as shit stuff to go, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, because like we're in our 30s, right? Well, we could be 90 and doing Kona together. We could do Ironman together.
Oh my God.
Right?
I would actually probably
Three-o.
qualify when I'm 90 because there wouldn't be anybody else doing it except the three of us. So at least I make it to Kona.
Podium.
I love the way that you talk. You're so animated and you're so passionate, and I love it.
Oh, you've said so many lines that almost like
I'm
you're
literally
in my head. Like literally, like you've said so many lines that I'm like, I remember that, and I still live by that because it's like, you know, it becomes very addictive. Of like, I felt like people go, oh yeah, but you just had bariatric surgery, blah blah. But I'm like, no, it's hard to describe, but I just feel like I finally get to live the life that I wanted to live. And like you've put it in words so many times this podcast, where I'm like, it's so hard to sometimes come across and tell people these things that you think and feel without feeling like they're judging you for being cocky and like arrogant. So like you've put it so elegantly, and so well put that I'm like, oh, that's exactly how that's exactly right. That's because it's like bariatric surgery for me didn't just save my life. And this is the line I use all the time is it didn't save my life. It gave me a life.
It created your life.
Literally created a life. Like I look back now and I go, why was I not doing fitness wise what I'm doing now? Because it is giving me more good feelings than I've ever had in my life. Like, and it's really hard sometimes for people who aren't like involved in like doing this kind of thing for them to understand. But like hearing it from you, I'm like, oh, she gets it. Like you get it. Like it's all about the feeling and the self-accomplishment and like the constant growth that is the thing that really fuels you. So yeah, it's so refreshing to hear because it's like, it almost makes me feel like, okay, you get it. Like I'm not the only one. I'm not going insane because like you're saying the exact things that were in my head. And I'm like, yeah, like that's exactly how I felt about the situation. And it's something I constantly have to keep reminding myself of because lately it's been very, you know, like I was saying the other day, like working for the 100Ks, you know, having to run 40Ks and then taking 2 days of like having no energy because you just ran 40Ks for training can become very monotonous and very draining on the mental side of things. So yeah, it's very cool. So if you could take a step back and talk to yourself pre-surgery, what would be the conversation you would have with you pre-surgery?
Yep, it's a good one, and it's it's one of those like your brain just goes, ooh. So many things. Like, first of all, to be like, okay, this is going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of phases through this journey, and all we've got to do is just get to the next phase. So, you know, whether it's the liquid diet, whether it's pre-op diet, whether it's 6 months down and you're just starting to taste a lot of new food, it's just a phase. And you get through it, and then we go to the next exciting thing. It can be really easy on this journey to start comparing yourself to others, and I would just keep reminding everyone that is biggest sin on the planet. This is your own journey. It's not anyone else's journey. So I would tell myself, stay off. I had to remove myself from a few social media groups because it got too much. I found that I was just going, oh my God, they can eat that. You know, I can't eat that. And it's just so self-harming. So, you know, one, get comfortable with the phases. Everything's a phase. It will end. It'll get better. And two, don't compare. Just be you.
Yeah, it is.
Everybody says that.
Well, and especially in this current age, like it's like we live in a day of we live in the generation of comparison. Like we're literally like people are making a living out of being perfect. Like that's literally what they're trying to project is perfection. So we live in an era of just people projecting perfection. or the complete opposite, where
idea of it.
they're talking about like dramatic stuff where it's engaging people. So, I think it's one of those things, like whether it's helping or hindering you, comparison can go both ways. And I think you're 100% right. Like, I think sometimes we just need to say, that's great for me to work towards, but I'm not going to be there tomorrow. So what do I do today to get me there? Get me a little bit closer tomorrow. I think
there's been one thing that I've taken away, I was just thinking about it before when you were talking about, always pushing yourself further and all that sort of thing, and staying outside of comfort zones and all that. I think that something else to kind of remember is that complacency can be like the devil, realistically. So like a lot of people say to me all the time, like, oh, how's your running going? And I'll be like, oh, it's not. And they'll be like, why? Well, it's just not, because I've got nothing to train towards. And like a lot of people won't be able to relate to us when we say this, because a lot of people that listen to our podcast aren't runners. Like, the idea of running itself is just kind of like they'll switch it off because there's no way that they want to be a runner. But complacency is something that you shouldn't get comfortable with. And regardless of if it's trying to run 5Ks, if it's, wanting to fit into a size XYZ, or no matter what it is, you've always got to have something to work towards, because if you get complacent, you're just going to stay in that spot and you're not going to get any further. And I think, Elyse, you're like the complete definition of not being complacent, because from what we've heard tonight, all you want to do is just keep on growing and keep on pushing and just seeing how far you can go.
Yeah, she's almost finding comfort in growth.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Comfort in growth.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Get the t-shirt.
Get the t-shirt.
New merch coming out next week.
Pink and black. Thank you very much. Yeah. No. But you're 100% right. Like, I think it is one of those things where you've got to just be comfortable with growth. Like, be comfortable with like the other day when I ran my 5K PB, it was a very anticlimactic moment because no one cares about that accomplishment as much as I do. So you've got to be comfortable with just caring more about your process and not doing it for others. As much as, like I said before, like with my mum, because she honestly, like, I could fart and she'd probably be like, oh my God, that was the best one you've ever done. You know what I mean? Like,
did
because
that
she's
the other
that
night in the car.
But she is kind of that person, you know what I mean? That's like why I always say with my mum, like, if it means a lot to me, it'll mean a lot to her, because she is that kind of mum where it would mean a lot to her. So yes, that's one of my fueling factors. But at the end of the day, I do things sometimes for the feeling it gives me.
Well, to put it into like perspective, like Elyse, you were out there the other day doing the 70.3 and you did it in like 7 hours and something, which a lot of people would go, whoa, like you spent 7 hours out there. Like that's insane. Like, that's a lot of exercise. You would have been so tired. Like the training that goes into that, like mind blowing. But then Shan runs an 1850 something at a 5K event and people go, oh, well, he was only out there for 18 minutes. It's like, well, no, hang on a second.
Yeah.
You had to push yourself to the brink of, like, you probably hurt just as much running that 18 minutes as what Elyse did running and swimming and cycling in 7 hours. Like, you can't compare.
No, that's exactly why we go and watch the last person that comes in, because, you can literally sit there and be like, oh, but they weren't as fast as the guy at the front. But mentally, and I say this all the time, like I've been the person that would have come last, and I know how hard mentally that would have sucked. But like, yes, I'm getting fitter and I'm getting faster, but mentally I'm still trying to push myself and remember where I once started.
And the best thing about seeing that person come across the finish line, that last person, they still finished.
The smile.
Like they still finished. They didn't get a DNF. Yeah. They didn't get pulled off the course. They didn't injure themselves. They still crossed that damn finish line, and the tears and the smiles and the emotion that runs through that person. Like I said to Shan when we were down there watching you finish, I said, I almost want to be the last person over the finish line just to experience that emotion that you get. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. You still accomplished it. Yeah.
It's still, that person is still a half Ironman. That was the person who ran and won the race.
Yep.
It's the same
100%.
accomplishment.
Exactly.
And it's the same, the park runner who finishes first and the one who walks back with the flag carriers still did the park run.
Yeah.
Still an epic achievement.
Yep. Yeah. That's it. What's the thing I always say is, like, even if you come last, you still did better than the person that didn't show up. So, like, it's, if you're out there and you're doing it, you should take the appreciation away from that because you're doing it and you once wouldn't have done it. So you're winning every day that you get out there and do something. So
talking about winning.
And I was just going to say that what I love is that because I see myself in every single one of them. The person on the course who isn't the Ironman body, and I'm talking about just a park run or just someone walking along the road, who's just out giving it a crack and getting out of the house and even just going for a walk. Freaking good on you. Like, at least you're just having a go. I think we forget sometimes that when you were really heavy, that just getting out of the house was an effort. Yeah. And that anxiousness, like someone's going to look at me and I'm going to be at the pool and they're going to see me in my togs. And just the anxiety around that alone. So power to anyone who's just given it a go. Hey, and like, I love being at the end of the course with anyone, even on a park run. And I love cheering everyone. It's like, you're awesome. Yeah. You're doing a great job. Just hang in there. I don't care what you're doing. At least you're giving it a go.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
The people at the back of the race are having just as much fun.
Oh, that and like, we all start somewhere. That's the biggest thing is like, when you first started out, like you would have dreamed of doing probably a 5K park run, like that would have been like, oh yeah, right. Like, why would I do that? That seems like excessive. Now you're out there doing like half Ironmans. It's like we all start somewhere, and just because you're finding it hard doesn't mean you're not good at it. It just means you haven't made that progress yet, which is the important thing. So, I think that's the biggest thing to take away from it is like, you just got to start and then not compare and then get deflated by someone else's accomplishments. Like you just said before, like sometimes we can like look ahead and we can see someone doing something that we're like, oh, I can't do that. And then it deflates us. So we just stop trying. That's not the point of it. Like you start today, 2 years, you're going to be someone's, oh, I can't get to that. If you just stick with it. So, yeah, I think that's a big thing to take away from that. Yes, comparison can be the devil, but it can also kill your own accomplishments before they even started. So, yeah.
Talking of accomplishments, what's next for you? Where are you headed? Obviously, you said that you want to do the 70.3 again next year, but are we aiming for the full? Are we doing this?
We're doing this.
I would love to do it. I'm not sure physically, nutritionally, how I would go. Honestly, I know there are other bariatrics who have done full Ironman. Power to them. I really struggle with hydration on the course, so I do want to try for it. I just want to do it in a really safe and healthy way. Mm-hmm. So, you know how I've been talking about like going and always doing better and stronger. I'm actually going to go back and do another couple of 70.3s before I go to that full Ironman distance. And this is really new for me. It's just kind of going harder and faster, but also reining it in and just going, we're going to just try this again and we're going to just try and improve a little bit.
Yep.
So next for me, I've got a couple of runs coming up at Cairns 70.3 next in June next year. I really want to tackle a full marathon at some point. And I would love to do the Black Hall. A little terrified of like live animals and the bush and all sorts. But one day I might see you there.
Yeah. Yeah. I do the Black Hall 50 before you do a road marathon. I don't know. Something to me is like a road marathon has never interested me. Like I did my first like trail marathon before I did a road marathon because I can do 21Ks on a road, but it's just, there's something about being out on the trails. It's more exciting.
And it's not as hard mentally because I was having this conversation with your mum the other day because I went for a trail run. We did Nambour Park Run, which is trails. And Shannon came back and met us at the 3 kilometre mark because he'd already finished. And I said, Shannon, it's taken me 3Ks of running trails to convince myself to do Black Hall again this year. And then like within a minute, he was like, no, you've got to be my crew. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that sort of thing. But like being out on the trails, like at the moment I'm struggling with my running to try and get my fitness back with my running. And on the roads, I'm like, oh, everything hurts. Like, oh, there's another, there's another line. It's just one straight line of bitumen. Whereas out on trails, you're not focused on how your speed as much because you say this all the time, Shan, that your speed is determined by the track that you're on, by the trail that you're on. So depending on that, like you don't have this pressure, I find. You don't have this pressure on yourself to go a certain time or to do. It's mostly about just getting from point A to point B without axing yourself.
Yeah, that's like literally, we never look at our watch. When you do trail running, it's not like road running where you're like, gotta hold that pace. Yeah. Gotta hold that pace. Trails aren't like that. Like literally some trails, like I finished, like what was the other day? I did a 36K trail run and I'm like 8-minute pace.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I'm like usually on a road, I'm trying to hold like a 4:30 pace, you know, so it's like almost double, but it's like I took so much accomplishment away from like doing that trail because they're freaking hard. Like you said, like I literally said to Helen at one point, I'm like, if I finish a trail run and I don't break anything, that's where the accomplishment is because I'm clumsy. So.
And it's just exciting too because like all of a sudden you'll like run up a hill and then it'll just open up into this like valley and it's beautiful. Whereas road running, you kind of know where you're going and you know what to expect because it's just another house or
I turn this corner and there's another concrete path.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, come on up and do Blackhole.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'll do Blackhole 50 or 100 with you next year because this is my first and last because it's too hard.
It's a big beast. Well, I did say to Shan that next year I would like to attempt for the 50 again because I'm not doing it this year, but I'd like to attempt for the 50 next year. So if we've got baby in arms, then Shan will be Dr. Dad for the day, daddy daycare for the day, so I can go out and run 50 kilometers. But we'll see.
Yep. But I think
that's baby and hockers.
Yeah, that's
and hockers.
I'll just run with an ergo on the front of me with the baby. First person to ever complete a 50 with a baby strapped to them.
Yeah, I think you should lock the trail in though, because I think you would take a lot away from that. Like I think you doing Blackhole like 50, I think you would take not only accomplishing being an ultra marathoner, I think you would finish that and be like, it was beautiful and challenging and I'd never want to do it again, but I feel very proud of myself.
And you'd also be like, well, then I can definitely ace a 41 on the road or 42 on the roads because if I can do a 50 on trails, 42 on the roads is a piece of cake.
Awesome. I'll see you there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, Elyse, you are a fantastic woman. I'm not going to lie, super impressed by you getting out there and doing the 70.3. Like, yeah, I take my hat off to you.
The highlight of my day that day was seeing you cross the finish line, even though we didn't see you cross the finish line, but seeing you out there.
It's so funny because you have this massive smile on your face this whole podcast. I've watched it and like you had that same smile on your face in the 70.3 and that speaks volumes. Like when you can do what you did at the 70.3, have that massive smile on your face, you can tell it means more to you than just running 21Ks or doing the distance. Like it meant a lot to you and it means a lot to me that it means a lot to you because I kind of go, oh yeah, I get that. Like it's all about that constant growth and that constant like validation of I'm living the life I should have been living for a very long time, but I haven't been. And now I finally get to take advantage of this.
Now I get to do all the things.
Yeah. So
all the things.
Yeah.
And for me, that race, like I said, fitness got me around the course, but gratitude got my mind around that course. Because you talk about having like 7 hours in your own brain. That is that's tough, man. You go through all the things. But I was just in this sea of absolute gratitude. Like when I got to the 4K mark on the run, that was when I realized that I was actually going to finish the race. Because I honestly thought that I was struggling with nutrition in that heat and water. And I thought, maybe my body will take this away from me because I won't be able to
finish
do it. Yeah. And when I got there, I'm like, man, this is it. Like, we're going to do it. And then when I saw you guys and it was like 100 meters to go, I'm like, wow, let's just have a chat. Because I was just having a chat the whole way around the course. I was taking my time. But you got to love life, right? Because you only get one.
Well, that's
so
it.
You got to live it.
Well, no, bariatric surgery, I feel like you get a second chance at it. So, and I think you're a prime example of that. Like, you did 30 years of your life without accomplishing a 70.3 or a lot of things you're accomplishing now. And now finally you're at a point in your life where you're like, I'm going to just do this stuff. And it's something we probably should have bitten a bullet very early on, but we get stuck in this very much complacency of life of just trying to find comfort and just be comfortable with who we are. But sometimes stepping outside of that comfort zone is where the rewards lie. So, example A, Elyse, you've done incredibly well. You're going to keep kicking goals. I can guarantee that. And I'm looking forward to seeing, and now your Instagram is one of my top people that I watch. So, I'm not going to lie that you've kind of got a little bit of a pressure of I'm just going to literally watch you now and expect you to do cool shit constantly. So,
just for Shannon.
Yeah, listen, the bar is set. You have to keep me entertained, okay? But speaking of which, if someone does want to reach out to you and goes, hey, I kind of want to be a 70.3 runner one day, and I feel like I relate to Elyse, where can they find you?
So you can slip into my DMs. I think that's how the cool kids say it these days. So my hashtag. So my thingo is, the at thingo 163 kilos.2.strong.
Yep.
You can flick me an email, wohling.e@gmail.com.
Yep. Yeah,
I think that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
We'll put all your deets in the comments below the YouTube and the Spotify and the other stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you need to change it from 163 to strong to 163 to strong, determined, unstoppable, and all the above. Because
infectious.
You are absolutely killing it, Elyse. It was a pleasure to sit down and talk to you, and I'm sure a lot of people will take a lot of great information away from this episode. So thank you very much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me, guys. I love that. You made my life, everything. Thank you.
You made my life. Well, anyway, guys, that is another episode of Bari Banter. Why, yes, that is another episode of Bari Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.